Hey guys, what's going on? Welcome back to another edition of Between the Numbers podcast. We are in week six just passed. Still only got one unbeaten team, being the Vikings, even though they didn't play. But there's some news happened this week. Big Ben's injured for the game, which makes possibly I thought was going to be the game of the week, where the Steelers playing the New England Patriots. Unfortunately, it doesn't look like he's playing. Eddie Lacy's injured, and he's set to miss several weeks. So big losses there for players. Anyway, we're gonna do what we always do on this podcast. We're gonna talk about the three games this week that interested us most, each of us, and then give you our predictions. And we even have how good we're doing on the predictions for the entire season, because Will finally got his USB back. So that's exciting. I'm excited for that. I already know what's happening, so I may have a better record than him. I don't know, but we're not actually that good at it, are we?
Uh, I don't know. We're all right. It's only partway through the season, so
Yeah,
things can
true.
still look better, and it's been difficult to predict this season. And now that you kind of know what the lay of the land is in terms of like the good teams and the bad teams, it's easier to predict games. So I'm still quite optimistic. I feel like I've got a good base to build on.
Fair enough. Fair enough. So do you want to get into one of your games that you've got coming
Yeah,
on?
I'm gonna kick off with well, I think it's the game of the weekend. It should have been in prime time. Was Dallas Cowboys at the Green Bay Packers, which was a real surprise of a game. I was expecting the Packers not to ease to victory. I was expecting them to win and kind of Dak Prescott kind of fall to the ground a bit, and you kind of see, okay, he is a rookie, but he will be a good player in the future. But this was kind of one step too far going. It's probably one of the hardest places to win in the NFL at Lambeau in terms of atmosphere, on par with somewhere like Seattle or Pittsburgh. But he came through this test really well and won. And he had 247 passing yards, three touchdowns. He did throw an interception. I think it was one or two passes after he'd just broken Tom Brady's record. But who cares? Well, I'm sure Tom Brady probably cares that he broke his record.
Mm.
Um, he seems like the kind of guy who would care about that. Ezekiel Elliott had another really big game. He had 157 rushing yards, and the Cowboys pretty much controlled this game. In the first half, it was still quite close. There were a couple instances where I was quite confused, where I wasn't really sure what Mike McCarthy was doing, where they had if Packers would have 4-and-1s and they wouldn't go for it, they just went for field goals, which seemed kind of unambitious and quite unpacker-like, especially because they're quite an offense-driven team. And in the second half, the Cowboys pretty much just took control, and the Packers just couldn't move the ball. And it was really weird seeing Aaron Rodgers play like this. He didn't look like the MVP quarterback that he can be. He had really good pass protection. I mean, he was sacked once or twice, I think. Oh, he's actually sacked once. And the Cowboys really struggled to get pressure on him because the protection was so good, and he had so much time to pass the ball. But he was taking his
Mm.
time. He wasn't looking down the field. He's throwing to the wrong receivers. He threw an interception at home, which is another rarity for him. And he still kind of looks a bit uneasy that, like he did last season, where he's not fully confident in what he's doing. I don't think this is an ability issue. I still think Aaron Rodgers won it technically in terms of his ability, probably the best quarterback in the league. But I think this is a coaching issue. I don't think what Mike McCarthy is putting in front of Aaron Rodgers is working, because the same thing
Mm.
was happening last year. And as a quarterback, you need to have faith in your system, and you need to have faith in your receivers. You can tell that he doesn't have that. That he's holding onto the ball for a long time. He's not taking risks, and he's starting to do that thing that he did last season, where he sees ghosts. He thinks players are coming up behind him, and he starts to run far too early. Um, and it's been a real talk over could Mike McCarthy still be in a job at the end of this season, considering, let's say, for
Yeah.
hypothetically, I mean, not the Cowboys, if the Packers don't make the playoffs, um, and it's because their offense is kind of stunted again this season, and Mike McCarthy is a offense coach and the offense has regressed, then do you think of moving on? But that's a long way down the line. But for the Cowboys, it's a really good win. Question now is, I think that they go into a bye week this week, and there's a possibility of Romo maybe coming back afterwards. I say just
Mm.
can Romo. I mean, he'll just get injured anyway. So, and Prescott looks pretty good.
Yeah, it's probably one of the biggest coaching decisions we'll see this season with what the Cowboys plan on doing with Tony Romo, because obviously they spent so much money on Tony Romo being that guy, and you want to think that if he comes in and if he like you pay the money to come in and start and be the guy that you know who he is. I think for me, Dak Prescott's still a little bit of an unknown. Like everyone's still waiting on him to like falter, but at least when Tony Romo falters, you know what's going on, and you know like that's just what happens. But it does seem like for the Cowboys, they have time. Obviously, the bye week coming up. And then I think they're playing on like the Sunday night game in the following week. So it's a long time for Tony Romo to come back to be ready for. I mean, he could come back. I mean, he's obviously like 2 weeks away, so he could come back. But like, it's just what do you do with Dak Prescott? I mean, can you? It's kind of like a Brock Osweiler situation like last year. Like he came through, played really well. But because you kind of knew you could have Brock Osweiler as the future because Peyton Manning might retire, there's all that stuff. But then obviously we have your bold prediction from the start of the season with Tony Romo retiring, and this Dak Prescott situation could just keep pushing it to that way. But yeah, big.
The noises coming out of Dallas
Cowboys
at the moment are every week. They seem like less and less inclined to confirm Tony Romo as the starter. This week, Jerry Jones was saying that they're not committing to Romo having an exact return date, that they'll play him when he's fit. So they're kind of giving themselves that leeway, saying like, oh, well, Romo was never fully fit, and then they kind of ease him into retirement, and that way they don't have to say, well, it's just because we didn't want to play him.
Yeah, it's true. They could say that like they could have given like the earliest return date because obviously they want to be like, this is when he's back. This is when like don't worry, Cowboys fans. Tony Romo will be back in this game, and we can pick it up from there. I think they might have said that. Sorry, just in case Dak Prescott wasn't very good at all, even though he clearly is. But you know, bit of a decision for them. And like, yeah, I was that game's really surprised me. I didn't expect Dak Prescott. It was Dak Prescott and Ezekiel Elliott just going in, like the two rookies, just going into Lambeau and just owning it. Really.
Yeah, I mean, this is pretty unprecedented to see this kind of stuff from rookies. Like I was crunching some numbers. Currently, Zeke Elliott is on pace to break the rookie rushing record. I think it's Eric Dickerson, which is about 1,800 yards. To have an 1,000-yard season, I think he would need less than 25 yards a game until the end of the season.
I'm pretty sure he can get that. Just whether he can hold up without injuries, I guess, is the only thing that's holding him back, really. He's got some pretty easy. He's got some pretty easy games coming up, which hopefully you can like get some hands with him. I mean, they're playing the Eagles when they return.
That's not really an easy game.
But it's not really like their run defense isn't what it should be. What it is and what it was, I don't think.
Yeah.
But their defense has been playing better. Actually, do you know what I think the main difference of the Cowboys has been? Like their defense has been really good.
There's a lot of guys who they've coached up on that defense. I mean, obviously we talked about this quite a lot in the off season that they had like 5 or 6 players who were suspended on the defense. But they have, in terms of like the guys who they've coached up in the secondary, like Claiborne, Rolando McClain, who's in the front 5, they've been looking really, really good. And that's kind of testament to the defensive coordinator and coach Jason Garrett, who always, like, in every scenario where the Cowboys play well, Jason Garrett is always the guy who goes under the radar because Jerry Jones just kind of grabs the mic and talks. But he's done such a good job in like bringing this team up. But yeah, so fair play to him. Yeah, Sean Lee as well. He's been a really good guy on defense as well. Byron Jones. So I had Jack Crawford as well. So.
Yeah, true. I'm going to go into one of my games. I have the San Francisco 49ers at the Buffalo Bills game this week. I know, a bit different for me, picking one of these games. Basically, the main reason I picked this was LeSean McCoy going back against his old head coach at the Philadelphia Eagles, Chip Kelly, who traded him to the Bills, didn't want him, didn't think he fitted the system, and LeSean McCoy went to town on the 49ers defense. He scored three touchdowns on the day. I think he had 104 yards rushing. And then 145 yards from 9 attempts. He had a good game. Tyrod Taylor had a very good game as well. 179 yards in the air, two air touchdowns, two passing touchdowns. Sorry. And then it was one of those games which was just it just seemed like a steamrolling the whole way through. I mean they put up 21 points in the last quarter. The Bills did, just to like distance themselves from the 49ers in this game. Obviously the 49ers had Kaepernick starting again. Actually that was the first time the Bills had won 4 games in a row since 2008. So props to you guys, Bills. Obviously Kaepernick came in for the for the 49ers. He threw for 181 yards, 1 touchdown. It was a huge long touchdown to Torrey Smith. But it just it seemed like for the 49ers, their run defense was terrible. The Bills had 312 run yards on the day. And it just seems to be what you do to beat the 49ers. Just keep running at them. And when you have a player like LeSean McCoy in the background, in the backfield, it's just really easy. The input of Kaepernick didn't really spark that much over Blaine Gabbert, but I mean, whatever the 49ers can do to try and grind out another win, really. The main reason was just that LeSean McCoy went to town, and you can see how much he wanted to just keep scoring against his old coach. The Bills improved to 4-2, where the 49ers stripped to 1-5 for the. I think they're still last in the NFC.
And the 49ers will keep falling down further, I think. But I think they putting Kaepernick in the offense, okay, they didn't win, but the offense did look slightly more exciting. You expect. Well, I think with Kaepernick, their offense has a higher ceiling now. You were never gonna produce this really exciting offense with Blaine Gabbert. Even his name doesn't make him seem like a guy who's gonna.
Blaine.
And at least Kaepernick, he's kind of proven as he can be a good player. But yeah, I mean, LeSean McCoy, he completely tore apart the field. And I think he's definitely, in terms of just pure and utter talent, he's the best running back in the league at the moment. He's so quick at getting between tackles; it's impossible to get any arms on him. And once he gets going, it's impossible to catch from behind. I reckon if you stuck him in any team with any offensive line, he could still maybe churn out 80 to 100 yards a week. At the form he's in at the moment, he is just incredible.
Yeah, I mean, it was just basically LeSean McCoy going back to the days that we've seen him run like we know he can, like he did in Philadelphia. Obviously, that was just stunted by Chip Kelly coming in, but yeah, he was out for a point to prove and definitely proved it. Bills are actually not looking too bad right now.
Yeah, no. I'm not.
Right, okay, do you want to move on to one of your other games?
Yeah, I'm going to move on to the Thursday night. Actually, no, I'm going to do the other game. I'm going to do that game last. I'll do this one. But so the Panthers have moved to 1-5. They lost 41-38 to the New Orleans Saints in what was a really, really exciting game. They went down 21 points in the first half and clawed it back. You had a missed extra point from Graham Gano, and then he gave up a touchdown right at the end. And it was a super, super close game, a game that I really do think you should have won. I think this is one of the best games I've seen from Cam Newton this season. I think he proved his MVP ability especially in the second half. I mean, he was dragging the team single-handedly back into the game. Some of the plays he was making on offense were pretty incredible. My favorite was one of the touchdowns where he had 5 defensive players running to him, and he dragged them all into the corner, and then tipped the ball over them and got the touchdown. And then also where he ran right into the corner and smashed into the end zone and scored a touchdown. He was making incredible plays, but he just wasn't getting any help around him on defense. I mean, your defense got an interception late into the game, and I thought that, all right, finally the defense has stepped up and made a play. But they just couldn't get a stop on Drew Brees and the offense. And I don't think it's a loss to Josh Norman. I think it's just generally that your front five, and you were saying this before the podcast, and your run defense is just not that good at the moment. Cody Ely's playing pretty badly. You don't kind of have that swagger that you had last season. I don't think it's okay. Obviously, maybe disaster-ish, 1-5, but I don't think this is going to mean the Panthers aren't going to the playoff. I still think you have a better chance than all the other 1-5 teams to go to the playoffs. I think you'll still finish somehow with a winning record. But I think the biggest thing to take here for a Panthers fan is that I mean the offense, like Cam Newton, he kind of woke up a bit in the second half. And if he can single-handedly do all of that by himself, then you have a chance on offense. For the Saints,
It is true. I don't know. It's just the Saints' defense though. It's not even that great, and if we do, we can put up points against them. Yeah.
yeah, but he was putting up points, and he was doing it without much help.
Yeah, it was definitely good to see as a fan.
Yeah.
It was good to see him getting back into the groove really, and spreading it around to all his targets.
Yeah. In terms of the Saints, this will probably be one of those games where everyone goes like, "Oh, the Saints, like you know what, they could make the playoffs." No, that's not happening. They do this like once or twice a season. They'll have a big game, usually against the Panthers or the Falcons, where Drew Brees has over 400 yards. Everyone starts thinking the Saints are a good team, and then they get blown out by a good team the next week. That will happen, I guarantee you. Who are they playing next week?
The Saints.
Playing the Chiefs.
In the upcoming week, the
They play the
Saints
Chiefs.
have the Seahawks. No.
Uh,
Oh yeah, so I'm a week ahead. Yeah, it's the Chiefs and the Seahawks.
yeah. I think they'll lose that game, and then everyone will come back down to earth. And that's
I mean, the Panthers have got a bye week next week as well. The issue for me right now is just the defense, especially the run defense, especially it got exposed in that Tampa game we played last week. And we all know the Saints' running game isn't well, it's not that great. But it just it was like 465 yards in the air for Drew Brees, which fair enough, it is Drew Brees, but this just seems to be a recurring issue for the Panthers. Pass defense is pretty lacking, so we kind of try to overcompensate it, and trying to get a good run defense going, but that is just going terribly. We try to overcompensate for the poor passing game, which leaves us open to get run down the middle, which is not what I'm used to seeing. But there's just the Panthers of 4 seasons ago, so it's not really that different.
yeah. I still wouldn't be surprised if come the end of the season, okay, maybe you won't win the playoffs, but you'll still be within a shout of making the playoffs, and you'll be in the conversation and in the picture for sneaking in and getting a wild card shot. And you still can't.
I'm not sure. I'm not sure about a wild card spot. The only thing I can see us going to is if we win the division, and we've played 3 games in division already, and we've lost all 3 against all teams. So we need to bring and you can't win the division. You can't expect to win the division if you've got a negative record within it. Really good that actually one of the games we're going to come on to, the Falcons lost. Because if they were, now went to what? If they were now 5-1, instead of being, is that Esther?
They would have gone 6-1.
They would have gone. Yeah, they would have gone 6-1. No,
They would have gone 5-1.
They would have gone 5-1. Yeah, because they're 4-1 right now. They're 4-2 right now. So I think 3 games we can make up, definitely. I'm expecting the Falcons to at least lose 3 games. But we're 1-5, so we're only 3 games off the Falcons. If we beat them, we need to beat them though to definitely get the division. I reckon if they beat us again, then that's not gonna be looking well. Anyway, I'm gonna move on to the Falcons game anyway. Who I've got. The Falcons travel to Seattle this week, going across the country. To play against that Legion of Boom defense, and we're going to see how the best offense stacked up against one of the premier defenses in the league, definitely one of the premier pass defenses in the league. But I have to say, the Falcons still look like a very good team, even though it was a close loss for them. So they lost 42-26, with a very suspicious pass, with no call on a pass interference, which was definitely pass interference from Richard Sherman on Julio Jones in the last drive for the Falcons. Doesn't mean the Falcons would have scored that because it was around about the 40-yard hash marks. So they still had a fair bit to go, even to kick a field goal. But obviously Matt Ryan throwing for 335 yards and 3 touchdowns, only 1 interception against this defense, which I think shows they're doing well against it. But it just seemed to be the Seahawks, that team who are just kind of like slipping under the radar a little bit. I don't think I was skeptical of them at the start of the season because obviously no Marshawn Lynch, they'd lost some players on defense, but they just I didn't expect their offense to be that great. Jimmy Graham has come up big in this game, six catches for 89 yards. Like Russell Wilson is spraying the ball around to multiple number of targets, and well, I mean it's going well for him, and the run defense the run offense is going pretty well. The run defense did well as well to stop Devontae Freeman. Only allowed him 40 yards. They only actually managed to get 52 yards rushing against the Seattle Seahawks defense, which obviously it's not their huge strong point. The Falcons, obviously we know how good they are in the air. Julio Jones got 7 catches, 139 yards, 1 touchdown, and probably should have had more if there was that pass interference called. But yeah, both teams got 4 wins now. The Seahawks moved to 4-1, and I think top of the NFC West game there, and then the Falcons still top of the NFC South. But these are both teams who right now I expect to see in the playoffs. I would be more. I'm obviously out of the two teams. If I'd be more surprised if the Seahawks didn't go to the playoffs right now, especially with how bad the Cardinals are being. But yeah, the Falcons are doing. Falcons. They had a very tough 3 games. So if you think about it from the start of last season, I know they completely destroyed the Panthers, and then they went to the Broncos. They won that, and I did think they could go to the Broncos and then the Seahawks, probably 2 of the best defenses in the league. And win. They almost did, but I think both road games, tough stretch for Atlanta, and they're looking good this season.
I think the key thing was they lost the game. They didn't embarrass themselves. They hung around in the game.
They were in the game.
And they could have easily won this game. It wasn't like they went in and they were beaten bad and they kind of came back in garbage time. But the gunfight was they were hanging around this game all the time. They should have won it. They were doing pretty well in the third quarter. I thought that they kind of adjusted themselves pretty well when what they usually do didn't work out in terms of like running the ball. They just kind of turned to, if you can turn to Julio Jones, then that's cool. Yeah, but I thought the Seahawks as well. I mean, you were saying that they're kind of gone under the radar a bit. I think it's because they're one of those teams that, because they're not playing that badly and they're just kind of winning games, you don't really talk about them because it's kind of what you expect them to do. You just expect them to like churn out wins and win games. And it's not like, let's say, the Packers who aren't playing well, but still winning a game occasionally, or the Patriots who had a kind of cool storyline that they didn't have Tom Brady for the first couple of games, and now no one talks about them because they've just gone back to winning with Brady. That unless they do something out of the ordinary, which is, I don't know, lose a couple of games or they get a big injury, you kind of just sit there and be like, all right, cool, Seahawks just won another game. That's kind of expected.
Yeah, true. I mean, like you expect. I think everyone. I mean, you could have. I'm not surprised at this result, and I wouldn't have been surprised at Atlanta winning either. Simply because, well, a little bit more surprised at Atlanta winning, but just because they've been playing so well and seem to be one of the teams which, after coming from nowhere, they seem to be just pushing through and making their statement known as they're probably pushing for that NFC South title, which I think they're pretty much. Well, not pretty much there yet. They're looking way better than everyone else in the division though right now. Everyone gets a win just off the Panthers anyway. So
you like the Browns of your division now. You like the Browns of your division now.
Oh, we're not that bad.
Yeah,
come on now.
Like, everyone gets a win against the Browns.
Everyone. Yeah, but everyone gets like 2 wins against the Browns.
Alright, fine.
We're gonna have to wait and find out. I really hope it's not the case this year.
Alright.
Then you can say we're the Browns of our division.
Alright, well, I'm gonna do my final game. Which is the Thursday night football game, which was the Denver Broncos at the San Diego Chargers. And the Broncos lost their second game on the trot. I think it's the first time in quite a long time that the Chargers have beaten the Broncos. The Chargers team that the week before that were kind of the embarrassment after they had that botched snap. They then cut the guy who did the snap because it was so embarrassing. And they went in and they beat the Broncos, and I thought they kind of beat them on defense. They Philip Rivers didn't exactly have a game where he threw for 300 yards. He only threw for 178 yards, and then Melvin Gordon had 94 rushing yards. One of the probably most impressive players on offense was Hunter Henry, the tight end, who, because they spent all their time trying to cover Antonio Gates, they didn't realise that this rookie Hunter Henry, who again has the coolest name in the NFL, was running around making plays. And another guy who turned up big, he had his almost had his first sack, but he did do a pretty good job at kind of just destroying the offensive line, was Joey Bosa, who's finally kind of
he did a very good game.
He's kind of like finally coming within himself. I don't think this is like going to be like you kind of want to say, oh, this is like a turning point for the Chargers, but I really don't see it. I see this as just kind of like a one-off win.
Yeah, I mean, probably one of the. Well, I was going to say one of the biggest upsets. I was going to say this is the biggest upset of the week, but then realized that I was probably covering the biggest upset of the week in the next game. But yeah, it was just I thought very much watching the highlights. Joe Bosa was everywhere. I thought he was always putting pressure on the quarterback, and it just seemed like the Chargers finally got out of that slump where they give it away in the last. Their defense doesn't step up in the last quarter or make a play at all or something like that. But yeah, I think that Philly Riv obviously, when he throws, he loves to play against his divisional rivals. And I feel like he always plays well against them and always throws for a lot. And obviously against this Broncos pass defense, I mean, he's doing well. I think the thing that is probably the most prevalent issue about this game is that Mike McCoy, the San Diego Chargers coach, if he didn't win this, maybe they could have been like, well, you're not really doing very much, are you? He needed a win, especially a divisional win, just to like be like, okay, I should be set for the next like 2 weeks in the NFL. But that's as far as I'll go for it. Like I think he really needed a win to stave off the axe.
Yeah, I think this win will keep him like maybe secure for the rest of the season, because I think they'll pick up wins every now and then, and they won't be such an embarrassment. But I don't know, like we could be proven wrong. This could be like the turning point, and I mean that division is still quite wide open. I think the Raiders are still on top, and they're level with the Broncos, but they're winning because they have a better divisional record. And then the Chiefs aren't too far behind, and now with this win, the Chargers have kind of closed the gap a little bit. So it's kind of blown the division a bit, like kind of wide open. But I think those three teams above them, they're just that step up better. Those are real playoff teams there, and the Chargers are just kind of like, yeah, they could do it, but they probably won't.
True. Right, I'm going to move on to my final game, and probably the biggest upset of the weekend, where the Pittsburgh Steelers and their offense, which is unreal, went down to Miami to play against the very terrible and average Miami Dolphins team, and left with a loss. The Dolphins ran over the Steelers. Ben Roethlisberger's injured. Obviously, I said at the start of the podcast, he came out. He threw two interceptions on the day, one touchdown, and Ryan Tannehill threw for 252 yards. But the main thing was Jay Ajayi, the British-born running back for the Miami Dolphins, and we were talking about this before the podcast. It's not really that British.
No, he lived he was born in London and lived there until he was in 4th grade.
So yeah, not really. I don't think that really count. Like he probably hadn't even started playing sport then. Obviously, he'd have played like our version of football. But anyway, going back to this game, 25 attempts, 204 yards, 2 touchdowns, and I think one of the touchdowns he ran for 62 yards for it. And this comes after, I think this is the week following where he won the overtime victory that was a couple of weeks ago against the Browns, for the Dolphins, where he ran in for that win for the Dolphins, their only win until today. Well, not today, until this weekend. The Steelers just their offense, which usually is really high power, only scoring 15 points against the Miami defense, which it always leads me to believe that the Miami should be better than they are, simply because I think their defense is pretty stacked, especially that defensive line. So yeah, but Roethlisberger was only out for one game because of the injury. Sorry, one game, one drive for the Steelers. But it just seemed to be that Pittsburgh Antonio Brown Antonio Brown for the Steelers. He only had 4 receptions and 39 yards. And for the leading I think he's the league leading in receiving. Either him or that Julio Jones character.
That guy.
But yeah, that guy. If you're keeping Antonio Brown to 4 catches and only 40 yards, your defense has got to be doing something well. And for me, it's not the Miami, like that's the back. That's like the secondary and like it's not the front 7 for them who like the run defense who pretty much stopped who were only allowed just over 115 yards in the day. But JHI going for 204 yards against the Steelers. I mean, we know the Steelers' defense isn't that great, but just the biggest surprise of the weekend for me.
Yeah.
I mean, it had to be.
It was huge. The great thing was it had nothing to do with Ryan Tannehill, because he's still not that good a quarterback. But that Dolphins defense has been coming up big for them for a couple of games this year. I mean, they've kept a couple of games close. I thought Mario Williams actually played pretty well for the first time. I thought their secondary of guys like Rashard Jones and Kiki Alonso looks really good. Sadly, Rashard Jones might be injured for a couple of weeks now, which makes all of that kind of obsolete.
Yeah, he's their Pro Bowl safety.
But yeah, he played well.
He's a very good player.
For a couple of weeks now, which is sad. But yeah, Jay Ajayi had the game of a life with 200 rushing yards. And okay, if I'm going to give Ryan Tannehill some sort of a compliment in this game, is he didn't turn the ball over, which is good for you. But yeah, it's a weird game to watch. It wasn't like it was like a close, tight game and the Dolphins won it in like the last minute or something. It was like they just kind of suffocated the Steelers, and the Steelers couldn't get anything going. It was similar to that game against us. It happened again, like against the Eagles a couple of weeks ago, where the Steelers' offense just kind of was just stunted, and they couldn't move the ball or do anything. And it was really weird to watch. And at the end, you were kind of like, oh wow, the Dolphins actually won that game. It was a weird watch, but yeah, fair play to the Dolphins. You won a game. And I think
could they be on their way to their classic Dolphin 7-9 record?
I think so. I mean, they're not too far away from it. They might even get it by Thanksgiving.
Maybe
get those 7 wins by
right,
then, and
guys,
then you're
7
done.
wins, good. Don't worry about it.
But yeah, again, like the Chargers, I mean, I don't think this is going to be a win where the Dolphins are suddenly going to go on some huge run. I think it was another one-off win. I do kind of worry for the Steelers a little bit because they're going to lose Big Ben next week, and we kind of know what Landry Jones is as a backup quarterback. But
true.
It will really depend on how long. He could even be out for longer. He's meant to have surgery. He had surgery this week, so he could potentially be out for longer.
Yeah, still waiting to hear what the Pittsburgh organization say about that. But yeah, the huge win for the Dolphins. Only the bad thing is that Rashard Jones injury, because he's a fantastic player, probably one of the best safeties in the league. But anyway, should we move on to our predictions for this week?
Yeah, that's fine.
So I think a very exciting game. So Thursday night, prime time, we have Chicago Bears going to Green Bay to Lambeau, where they won last season.
Yeah, they pooped on Brett Favre night.
Yeah, they did, but no, it's not happening. The Packers are winning. Yeah.
Good. I'm glad we agree on that.
All right, so we both got the Packers. Then the first game on Sunday is a game in the UK. It's in London. It's a really early kickoff for you guys. If you're on the West Coast, that's going to be very early. But East Coast, only 9:30 a.m.
It's a breakfast show.
Yeah, breakfast shows. It's the Giants versus the Giants versus the Rams. It was a mixture of the Giants and the Rams, I guess. So gonna see Odell Beckham in London. That's exciting. Unfortunately, this is the one game that we're not going to. I'm going to the one in the following week, which is it's the following week, isn't it? Yes, which is the Redskins at the Redskins at the
Oh,
Bengals.
that had potential
yeah,
to be such a good game.
yeah, I know. I'd rather go to the Giants Rams game right now because they're both doing right. But I'm still excited. I guess AJ Green. I mean, come on, that's quite cool. Yeah, but Odell Beckham, AJ Green, not really sure.
What do you think? What do you think the chances are of Odell Beckham doing some really annoying video with a football net?
I probably will do.
This whole like net
That's-
fiasco is really starting to annoy me. Like that.
I don't know. I found it quite funny the first time he hugged it after he scored the touchdown. I was
But then
"Oh,
he
it's
like
cute."
when he scored the touchdown again, like he went on this whole thing where like he got down on one knee and proposed to the net, and then he started like humping the net.
It's kind of weird. But anyway, who do you reckon is taking this one?
It's a tough one, but I think the Rams will win. I think the Giants are still kind of like a streaky team. You're not really sure what you're going to get out of them. They kind of improved. They kind of came into themselves in the second half against the Ravens. But I really liked what I saw from the Rams against the Lions. I think they kind of showed that they have the ability to maybe move the ball. And I think they have more of a destructive defense than the Giants, and I think the Rams will win.
Yeah, true. I do think that these are both very streaky teams, both of them. But I think that the Giants, when they streak, their streak is way higher than the Rams. And I'm going to have to pick the Giants in this game, simply because I reckon it'll be more of a home game for the Giants than the Rams. I don't think there's not many Rams fans I know in the
It's
UK.
technically a home game for the Rams.
Yeah, but like, there's definitely way more Giants.
Is this one at
fans
Wembley
than
or
there are.
Twickenham?
I think this is the Twickenham game
Oh.
because I'm going to the Wembley one the week after. So I think this will be this is definitely the Twickenham game. I reckon the Giants are going to pull off the win here. OBJ is going to give everyone a nice little show there. Right, moving on to one of the 1 o'clock kickoff games, so the early ones, which is, I was chatting to my mate who lives in California, and he was like, it's 8 o'clock. I was like, so your football starts at 10 o'clock in the morning on Sunday?
Oh, that's so nice.
How good would that
Oh.
be? I was like, I kind of want to move to the West Coast now because that would be fair enough. This early kickoff would definitely screw you over because like it's so
Yeah, but
early.
that's 3
that
games
it's
a
definitely not
year.
worth it. Yeah, true. I mean, you're missing out. But it is a Rams game. That's the thing.
Yeah.
Like the fans in Los Angeles are gonna be like, well, what? I'm not even up to
Do
watching.
you think there's a lot of fans of the Rams in LA yet?
I mean, there were like 20 years ago or like 30 years ago when they came back, and they do kind of get the stadium relatively well done. But
Do you think if
Anyway,
you were
the,
a fan of a different team and the Rams came to LA, would you ditch that team and go for the Rams?
I don't know because we had this conversation
Yeah.
didn't we, the other week when it was if the London team came, would you ditch your team and then picked the London team, which is looking like because it's looking like it's the Jaguars if it would be a team.
Yeah.
I mean, I could have my AFC team there with the Jags and then still keep the Panthers, but I mean, like, for you and our other pal who's a Broncos fan, you obviously being a Patriots fan, there's AFC teams there. I mean, you could pick an AFC South team, I guess.
Yeah. It would just feel wrong. I don't know. I'll see how the Patriots. I mean, maybe by that point the Patriots are crap.
You can just jump ship and then always claim. But to be fair, if they did change, I feel like you, in order for the team to do well, they need supporters.
Yeah.
But at the same time, I don't know if I could change from the Panthers. I mean, we're doing shit right now, so maybe. But
Just be like a slow
I'm
like
joking.
ease into it.
Yeah, that could be the case. Yeah. Anyway, moving on to the first of the 1 o'clock games on the East Coast is the Saints are playing the Kansas City Chiefs at is that they have Arrowhead or is that the that's the Cardinals now?
It's Arrowhead Stadium is the Kansas City Chiefs one.
Oh, awesome! Oh, right, okay, there we go. So Chiefs hosting the Saints. I've got the Chiefs in this game. Yeah, that's what I'm gonna say.
I was saying earlier, this is going to be a game where the Saints come back down to earth.
Yeah. So there we go. Both picking the Kansas City Chiefs. Right, Colts at Titans. AFC South matchup. both teams. Obviously, the Colts going 2-4 right now, and the Titans are 3-3. Both teams have lost all their divisional games. But in this game, I see the Titans coming out with a win, simply because the Colts have been average, and the Titans have been, well, just above average, I guess. Well, this win would put them just above average.
This game just excites me. An average team and the above average team will win. I'm going to go for the Colts. I think they have better playmakers on offense. They seem more of a rounded team, but that's in comparison to the Titans. So I don't think it's going to be much of a game. And I think they just have that like factor of having Andrew Luck, who can change a game so easily. And against a bad team, I think it will be more of a factor. But I could be wrong.
Yeah,
I'm usually wrong.
That's
so.
true. All right, moving on to the next game. We have the only unbeaten team left in the Minnesota Vikings taking a trip to Philadelphia to take on the Eagles. They're unbeaten, and they just came off a bye week. Why wouldn't I pick the Vikings?
Yeah, I mean they're unbeaten until they give you a reason that they shouldn't be unbeaten, and I haven't seen that reason yet. I think the Eagles could maybe make a game of it. I think they might do what the Redskins did on the weekend for how to stop Carson Wentz is just not have him on the field. I think there was a stretch of 20 minutes where Carson Wentz didn't take a snap because the Eagles just couldn't get on the field. They just couldn't get a stop. So maybe they'll just do that.
True. Yeah. I mean, I think. Does that mean you're picking the Vikings? Yeah. I definitely am. I think they'll move to 6-0 and still top of the NFC. Right, moving on. The Browns at the Bengals. AFC North divisional matchup here. The Browns still haven't lost. I think they're going to move to 0-7, with the Bengals moving to 3-4. The Bengals have been disappointing this season.
Yeah, the Bengals have been. They in the first half against the Patriots, they kind of hung around a bit and they looked like they could maybe cause an upset. I got slightly worried whilst watching the game. And then one of the commentators said oh yeah, Brady's numbers have been really average so far. And then he throws for 200. I think he threw for 376 yards by the end of the game, and Gronkowski had 160 yards. Yeah, he's just been average. And the Bengals, they just look like have an inability to do anything. But come on, the Browns aren't that good, so yeah, they can't even beat the Titans.
Yeah, I mean, the Browns have won a game, so there you go. Right, the Redskins are playing on, are going to play the Detroit Lions in Detroit. This is an interesting game because I think the Redskins they're on a nice little streak right now. The Skins, so they're 4-2. The 3-3 Lions, who are still in that AFC North kind of mixer for second spot there, but I do think the Redskins are going to come away with a win here. The Lions just with a too close victory over the Bears last week, so yeah, I'm going to have to pick the Redskins.
I'm going to go for the Lions because
obviously
I
think they must be my most picked against team. I might actually go do that. I might go see how many times I pick against one team. Actually, it's probably just the Browns. Yeah. It's definitely the Browns. Anyway, you're booking the Lions, obviously. Right, one of the games which will be quite exciting. Two very young teams, and two teams who will be good for the in the next 5 years, the NFL. The Oakland Raiders are going up against the Jacksonville Jaguars in Jacksonville. In this game, I'm not really sure about this one because the Raiders have been playing well. Obviously, they're 4-2 right now. They're top of the division right now, the AFC West, and I think they're going to continue being top of the division when they pick up a win in Jacksonville.
Yeah, I think the same as well. I think the Jags, despite the fact that they beat the Bears, I don't think it was they beat them because they were the better team. I just think they got lucky because the Bears weren't that good. And I think I still do think the Raiders will. I mean, not the Raiders, the Jags will be good eventually. I think they've got the pieces there, but they just need to kind of piece them all together. I think a key thing as well that one of the issues they keep having, they want Blake Bortles to turn the ball over less, which he's doing, but it kind of means that they're like honing him in more, so he's not doing like risky passes, which is a reason why their offense was so successful towards the end of last season. That he was just like lugging the ball up the field, going for like
Mm.
the like most extreme passes. And I think maybe if they do that more, they could have a better offense because the offense hasn't been as exciting to watch this season.
True. I think it's definitely the case. And it just seems that Blake Bortles just doesn't have. I don't know. It seems like the run game hasn't helped him out that much. Obviously, we know how good he is in the air, but excited to see how many points the Raiders put up because I don't think this Jags defense.
Oh no, I think the defense
that
is all
great.
right. The defense was the reason they hung around in that game against the Bears. I mean, Jalen Ramsey's looking awesome.
It's true. It's true. I know. I'm expecting Amari Cooper and Michael Crabtree, who I think are probably like the best 1-2 punch for like your wide receivers in the NFL right now. I mean, they're both doing right. I mean, Crabtree comes up with really clutch plays. I mean, he's always in highlights for toe drag swag on NFL. So I'm excited for this. Right, the Bills are taking on their AFC East companions or rivals in the Dolphins, who just came off that huge win. Both of them just coming off from big wins. But I don't see the Dolphins repeating that, especially against this Bills defense, who don't allow you to run on them. So I'm gonna have the Bills. Gonna win this game.
Yeah, I'm going to pick the Bills as well because I don't really like the Dolphins and I don't really like the Bills, but I think the Bills are better.
You think the Bills are better? Fair enough. All right. Yeah, both picking the Bills. Right, Ravens at Jets game. The Jets are terrible. Geno Smith might start. Don't know what's going on there. I'm picking the Ravens.
Yeah, I mean, the Jets have just capitulated. Real shame because I thought they had so much potential this season, but yeah, they.
They'll
It was.
they'll move to second bottom in the AFC conference with their 1-6 record, just above the. Normal,
Hey, I mean, at least they'll get a high draft
after this
pick,
weekend. So yeah, true.
that they
true.
can
I mean,
screw
that's
up
what
again.
Yeah, that's very true. One of the only positive for the Panthers, I can only think that maybe we need so much help though. But anyway, that concludes the morning games. So the Buccaneers play the 49ers in a game which is meh. Like, I'm not really gonna watch it. There might be some highlights for the Buccaneers in this, but it's not gonna excite me this game. But I'm gonna pick the Buccaneers.
Yeah, I'm gonna go for the Bucks as well.
Simply because
They've
the
gone
49ers
slightly
are
under
just
the radar because they haven't really done much exciting, but they could maybe win here and string together a few wins and maybe put themselves in the conversation.
Well, if they win here, they go 3-3, so they're still in the running for pushing on for the playoff spot. Speaking of a team who I think might be going to the playoffs, the Chargers, obviously not them, are playing the Atlanta Falcons in Atlanta, and I think this is gonna be a really high scoring game with both offenses throwing for like huge numbers because the Chargers secondary is pretty poor. Philly Riv just come off a huge week. But I'm going to have to pick Matt Ryan and the Falcons this week, as much as it pains me to do so. They'll move to 5-2.
Yeah.
Which is,
You know what? I'm actually going to go for an upset in this game.
Oh, yeah?
Because Philip Rivers likes upsetting the bandwagon. And maybe, this could cause an end to the Falcons. I'm not really basing this so much. I'm just basing this on a hunch because I think it would be fun if the Chargers won.
Yeah. That it would be fun. I would very much like the Chargers to win as well, but I don't think it's going to happen. Right, moving on. Would have been the game of the week, I think, this one, if Big Ben hadn't gone injured. It's your New England Patriots moving over to Pittsburgh to go play against them. Big Ben's not playing, so what's the name of the backup quarterback?
Landry Jones.
Yeah, Landry Jones is starting. In the couple games he started last year, the Pittsburgh Steelers faltered. So I'm gonna, especially up against this rejuvenated New England Patriots team, I'm gonna pick I've got the Pats in this.
Yeah,
game.
I'm gonna go for the Pats as well. They have a terrible record against. I mean, the Steelers have got a terrible record against the Patriots. They seem to, especially in the Belichick era, they seem to just have this inability to beat the Patriots. And the Patriots are on such a roll at the moment. And Landry Jones he's an all right quarterback, but he has this inability to find Antonio Brown, even though he's massive and always open. He just seems to never be able to find him. And I think they're really going to struggle without Big Ben.
Yeah, I think definitely. that's the case. Right, I'll be moving on to the Sunday night primetime game. Very exciting game would be the Seahawks going to Arizona to take on the Cardinals. Interesting game this, as currently right now the Seahawks are 4-1 in division, and the Cards are 3-3. So if the Cardinals win, they won't go above the Seahawks. But it puts them on the same number of wins as the Seahawks, and that's really important for them. But I do have it seems to me with these teams, they always split, but they split, one will go to the other team, the away team will always win, basically. So I'm picking the Seahawks on this one.
Yeah.
It just seems to what they've done in the past couple of years.
I think the Seahawks will win as well. I think the Cardinals still haven't really found their feet this season. They still look quite uneasy. I know they won it, but they won against quite a bad Jets team. And this Seahawks team is going from strength to strength. Their defense finally has its swag back. Russell Wilson, as you were saying, like he's moving the ball around for fun now. I don't think it's going to be a blowout, but I think the Cardinals will kind of see how far away they are from the pack at the moment.
Yeah, true. I think it would just be a good one. Anyway, that concludes the Sunday games. Moves on to the Monday night game, which is the Texans at Broncos. The return of Brock Osweiler. He's going to return to Denver and get sent back home with a loss.
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah, I don't think anything else is going to happen in that. Pretty sure that's what's going to be the case.
Well done, Brock Osweiler. You beat a really bad Colts team.
I think Brock Osweiler. I mean, they're still top of the division. They'll be 4-3. But yeah, the Broncos moving up 5-2, moving up in their division as well, which is a very competitive AFC West. With if all the calls go as we have them this week, I've got all the AFC West teams winning apart from the Chargers. They'll be 5-2 for the Broncos and the Raiders, and then 4-2 for the Kansas City Chiefs. So competitive one. I think that division's going to go down to the last. Probably like maybe the NFC East as it always does, or the AFC South. That division is just terrible as well. Anyway, guys, I think that is enough from us this week. There you have our predictions. Go put your bets down if you're not in the US. If you are not in the US,
unless you're in Vegas,
that's about it. Oh, of course, if unless you're in Vegas, then just go do whatever you want. I mean, you're in Vegas. Have a good time. Anyway,
we won't pay, but
go
have it on us.
Yeah, just think of us when you'd having it. Right. Anyway, guys, until next week. We'll catch you later.